There are a few dishes as popular or versatile as risotto. Risotto should be a marriage of rice and broth, neither dry nor soupy. The right kind of rice is essential. Italian arborio rice, a short grain variety grown in Italy, has exactly the right starch content to produce the unique texture of a good risotto. To make this baked mushroom risotto, you'll start with 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 cups of chopped mushrooms. You can chop them, slice them, or prepare them any way that suits your taste. 1/2 cup of a yellow onion finely diced, salt, pepper to taste, 1 cup of arborio rice, 2 cups of chicken stock, another cup of 1/2 cup of half and half and 1/2 cup of chicken stock mixed together, and 3/4 of a cup of finely grated Parmesan cheese. I started with 2 tablespoons of olive oil in our pan, and now I'm adding the butter to melt it. Once your butter has melted, you add your mushrooms. And remember, when working with mushrooms, you want to start them dry, no water, just the oil, and you want to let them release their own liquid. So you start dry, then they turn wet, and then you let them cook to dry out again. This is the point where you're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Once your mushrooms have started to brown, it's time to stir in your onions. And you want to cook these just for a few minutes until the onions soften and become translucent. When your mushrooms and onions look right to you, it's time to stir in your rice. And you want to stir it around and make sure that every grain is coated with the butter and oil mixture. It'll take a few minutes. Now you want to add 1 cup of chicken stock. And this is where you have to just stay with your risotto over medium-high heat, bring it to a boil, and stir constantly until all the liquid is absorbed. One of the reasons people don't like to make risotto is that it's such a time-intensive dish because you have to stir it all the time, and this dish takes, the oven does most of the work. We're only going to stir for the first few minutes and then it goes in the oven. As you can see, our broth is being absorbed nicely. So now it's time to move to the next step, which is to prepare it for the oven. Add your 2nd cup of chicken stock, and you want to bring this back to a simmer, and then it will go in the oven. Once it's in the oven really does all the work for you. It'll be in the 400-degree preheated oven for 15 minutes, and then I'll finish it on the stove top when it comes out. Another thing, you can use a saute pan, but I chose to use this pan because it's oven proof and there's no risk of it boiling over or spilling over, so your choice. Our rice is coming to a nice simmer, and so now I'm just taking a little brush and poking down all the grains of rice and making sure they're in the broth. If they're not in the broth, they won't cook. And once it comes to this gentle simmer, it's time to go directly into the preheated oven. Our risotto has been in the oven for 15 minutes and now it's out. Remember that your pan or your skillet, whatever you have used, has been in the oven, so it's very hot, so make sure that you use a mitt. Stir it all around. You can see how nicely all the broth has been absorbed. And now it's time to finish this off on the stove top. With your flame on medium-high, add your mixture of cream and chicken stock and stir together. And now stirring constantly until this is all absorbed. This will finish off the risotto. At this point, your risotto is about 85% cooked. It's still a little bit hard, so it needs this last absorption to make it just perfect. This is when you have to make the decision as to how you like your risotto. I just tasted it for seasoning and it's perfect to my taste. And I like my risotto more on the drier side than on the wet side. I certainly don't want it soupy, so for me this is absolutely perfect. So I'm taking it off the heat, and my final addition will be 3/4 of a cup of fresh grated Parmesan cheese. Mix it in, and it's ready to serve. Plate your risotto. Once it's in the bowl, if you give it a little bit of a shake and it doesn't spread too much, you know you have the perfect risotto. In Italy, risotto is mainly used as a first course. Here we love it as an accompaniment to a meat dish, or, like pasta, as a main dish, dressed up with seafood, meat, or chicken. If you haven't discovered the elegant simplicity of risotto in your own kitchen, give this recipe a try. You won't be disappointed.